Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the official Trackmania channel for round 5 of the 2026 Trackmania Elite Cup. Thomas Mengos, aka GGeek, alongside Kai Ludwig, aka Lucas Turbo. We're glad to have you with us, and we're already... Man, it feels like yesterday when the season already started, Kai. It's been a whirlwind of the last 4 weeks, and the action seemingly never stopped.
Yeah, I mean, we started exactly 1 month ago with this. The first step was on the 14th of February at Valentine's Day. I was casting it from my girlfriend's place in Germany.
You were in a whole different country,
and yeah, I was in a whole different country,
a whole different country, and a whole different side of the channel as well.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because it marks the halfway point, as you have said it. We had some great action last week, and I think today will be even better. But I'm just looking so much forward to it because we have a lot to go through also in this pre-show. And, well, let's just kick things off because we have a nice highlight reel that we have created from Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil it was the destination last weekend, and if you weren't with us, we got you covered. Before we go into the recap, it was roughly in the same ballpark of qualifying that we had on USA. On USA, it was the tightest margin with 46 hundredths of a second between 1st and 64th. There, it was just a touch over half a second. 0.540 was the gap, and among the ones that were unfortunate, Nico, 66. Just 37 milliseconds away from that top 64 cutoff. Definitely disappointing. The Frenchman who tried to qualify and do the double of trying to go into the Elite Cup top 64 as well as win the Insalon. Eventually, he finished in 3rd at that particular event as well. So that is a very credible finish for the first in-person event for the Frenchman. But then for those that made the top 64, it was pretty good racing all day long. And we start off with a very nice race involving, of all people, Golden Nugget.
Yeah, Golden Nuggets, he was really the player to follow because he was always so far behind, but it looked a bit dire for him in this round. And also here, we have seen a nice fight going on, a very close ending here between Feed, Golden Nugget, Chemko, and Biwak. And we can see here the snipe from Chemko, the last efforts, but it wasn't enough. Golden Nugget stayed ahead, and then we go into this round here as well, and that just shows you should never give up on this identity. We have seen 2 mistakes just at the ending here. The final corner has really provided us, or the final corners has provided us with a lot of content in that regard. And Charles and Link both have crashed. We can see Charles here going a bit too far on the inside and thereby clipping the rock and flying out of the map. And with that, he will not make it. And then another mistake happened from Link as well. I think kind of the same mistake that has happened to him. He got watery wheels as well, made Link and Charles going out. Soldier lived another round, who was behind all the round long, I think.
Yeah, all the round long. And the thing for Link is that clip happened at the worst time as he crossed the checkpoint. Tried to save it, but missed the finish the first time, hence that early elimination. Now, here's a very big knockout. Now, we tried to do our best with the footage that we have, but that little 4-pixel white speck that you see on the screen, that is Otak's car as he tried to attack, well, set himself up for the final hairpin. We are on the penultimate gate. He didn't get the proper slide setup. Seems to have gotten a no slide in a sense and went all the way to the right, and he will crash first into the rock and then into the gate, missing it completely, and that prompted the man from Team Liquid who finished 3rd the last time out on USA to respawn. He would get knocked out in P40 just behind Mime, whose season goes from bad to worse to even worse than worse for the man from Navi. Then we had another pretty early setback for the current championship leader Mutta, who had a bit of a slow start there and thus find himself relegated in 30th. He would be able to regain some of his composure and make some of the time back over the course of the 2nd and 3rd sector, but as you're about to see, it wasn't really meant to be, and he would be getting knocked out in P29, P30, along with Golden Nugget, who made a pretty deep run, all things considered. Now we move a few rounds later on, along with Granadi, and I'm pausing right there just so you can see the gap that has already been built up, and it was very tough to actually climb that gap back up, and ultimately was just a bit short.
Yeah, same fate as Mutta in the clip from beforehand. One just small mistake at the start, one gear loss, and then you're just running. You have to push, right? But you cannot catch this one up. And since there's less and less players on the track, mistakes are not happening that frequent. And Will Granadi overtakes Mola in the end, but got eliminated in 21st position. So quite unlucky for him. And then also the same fate for Massa here in the end, but he was able to capitalize on a mistake there from Cagney and also Flimsy, who both were falling behind. Massa struggled a bit also in the rounds beforehand, where he almost finished in red position, but then was able to survive. And then let's go to the next clip here as well, where we have just Stufts being very far behind on P number 10.
Yeah, currently Stufts in P10. We're pausing it right there just to give you the context. Stufts had a bit of a slow start, came into the identity, 3/10 down, but then watch a little bit further. We're going to have a bit of a slowdown and a bit of a freeze frame as well with this car right there. That is Bren from Twisted Minds, who currently sits in P7 at the time that this mishap happened, and he seems as though, just like Otak, he did not get the proper line, didn't get the proper slide setup for the attack of the final hairpin, and he managed to pass the gate, but was forced to slow down quite dramatically in order to avoid clipping or hitting anything. And as you can see, he gets overtaken by everybody. Elkon, his fellow countryman Wasile, and then, of course, Stufts, who gets a great exit from the final corner to exit in P9. That was an unfortunate exit for Bren and a huge save for Stufts, as he was on his way to become the best-placed Dutch player so far. And now we move on to another round. This is one of the closest battles that we've seen throughout the entire race.
Yeah, this was probably one of the best rounds that we have seen. Carl Jr., Bings, Massa, Tona, and also Elkon fighting it out for the top 4 positions. And we just all go all the way to the end. Tona went for a wider line, which gives him more exit speed and fights back very nicely. Elkon falling behind, didn't get a good slide there. And that meant that Tona barely stayed ahead of Elkon on that 4th position. And look at that, only 1700ths of a second between them. And let's move into the top 4 rounds here. So very close stuff. Also here, Bings, Carl, Massa, and Tona then fighting it out. And as you can see, Tona again going for that very, very wide line. But guys, we haven't forgotten about this clip. Top 12 round, the round of the event from last week. Take a look onto the snipe from Tona here in the end. It was so close. Tona was just back against the wall, and then he was able to overtake Bimi by just 1,000th of a second by just slightly staying in. And with that, he also got himself that deserved top 4 position on the board.
Yeah, that was one of the greatest nights that we'd seen all season long, and we circle back to the moment where Tona's run came to an end. And just to put the period on Elkon, P5 for the Czech driver from Nemesis was his best finish to date, and Tona also with his best finish to date here in the Elite Cup in only his 2nd top division event. As we go towards the final round on Brazil, it was Falcons versus Big, Carl Jr. versus Massa, both looking for their first win of the season. And just like last week, it was a titanic battle that started off well, but ended up coming just a bit short and being cut very, very early on as we go outside of the loop and then follow of the perspective of Massa. And now we're going to pause there. This is the moment where everything unraveled for Massa. See that little transition there? This is not the smoothest transition in the world, and you have the chance to potentially bug out on this transition. Now, Massa have been able to avoid the pitfall pretty much throughout the entirety of the race, but in this occasion, at the most important point, he fell foul of that transition. Tries his best to save it, but as you can see, by the moment he saves it, puts an air brake on, tries to counter steer, the car lands on the sidewall of the tire, which brings them visually to a dead stop, visually basically widening the gap to something that is unassailable and pretty much sealing the fate of Massa here in that final round. He will come away with a 2nd place and 600 points in the bank, but for Carl Jr., it was a return to winning ways for the 7-time world champion, who comes across the finish line to pick up his first Elite Cup win of the season and to bring Team Falcons their first outright Trackmania win, and thus joining Gen.G in the roster of teams that have experienced the for the first time in Trackmania in 2026. All in all, it was a fairly close race with plenty of big moments that have happened, but overall it's been fairly clean in a sense, and it's been fairly exciting. It's been really exciting to watch all the way through.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, very unlucky, of course, that this kind of bug or slowdown happened to Massa in this particular round, because 700 versus 1,000 points, that's, of course, a huge setback, but still a great, great performance from Massa, elevating him all the way up into the 3rd rank, overtaking Granadi. But it feels like the big rivalry versus Carl Jr. is just continuing. Red Bull faster a year ago, and then now Massa also falling short of that victory against Carl Jr. But here we can also see the EWC standings for now. Moda in 1st still with his very, very good 1st and 2nd performances. Still living off of that, Carl Jr. and also Massa coming closer. Bing's also at 1,400 points, followed up by Wosa, who's just a couple of points behind him. Then Granadi, Bren, and Naiko. So still a lot of Frenchmen in the top 8. So that is great to see from them, but I think everything can turn today, and we could maybe even see a new leader in the EWC standings.
Yeah, it could very well happen, just like we've seen plenty of changes in the ENC standings, with Canada moving up to second, courtesy of Carl Jr.'s first win. Massa takes the mantle of flag bearer for Germany, 4P3, currently fourth as well. Binks reclaiming a spot as highest placed Frenchman. Epos for the UK currently sits in P5, Scrappy still sitting pretty in P6, and Elkon moves Czechia up to 7th in the ENC standings. Pussy Topako completes the top 8 with 266 for Hungary. Stutz retaking the mantle from Spam as the flag bearer for the Netherlands, sitting in P9. Nitek sitting in P10 for Russia, 11th place for Poland and Roadtaker, 12th place for Afi and Switzerland, who have been really much on the backslide so far in the mid part of the winter season. Then Razi for Croatia, 13th, 14th place for Charles. Flimsy making an appearance for the USA, the man from Ohio, currently sitting on 136 points, and Jan, the Slovenian driver from Team Eterna, currently sitting P16 with 126. Here's what the standings look like in the top 32. Otak, despite that very early setback in Brazil, still sits in the top 10, just 52 points behind his fellow teammate and 110 points behind the top 8 that is due to qualify for EWC. Also present in there, we've got a nice tight group of UK players that will be the subject of something a little bit later on in the show, with Wizzy, Jadon, and Josh, as well as Pack in there as well. And here's what the rankings look like for top 64, and you can see the position of, well, Flimsy as well as Jan. Jan 41st for the last country to be qualified for ENC at the present moment. Now, we're coming towards our player profile for this weekend. So far, we've had a focus on players that have had very recent success, who have taken wins or have taken very creditable finishes in the Elite Cup. It was the case for Mata, and it was the case for Bren. Here, we're going for someone who didn't have the best of season starts, but one that you should never count out, a man with plenty of history in the game. It is, of course, none other than the man that we refer to as the Giga Chad in some circles. It's Thomas Pack Cole, the man from Team Vitality.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is just... He's just the Giga Chat in the Trackmania scene. Team Vitality has joined that one very recently. You can see the notable results. First, of course, in the World Cup 2025 alongside Carl Jr. Then 2024, he barely qualified to the World Cup just from at XP Evo. The outside dirt incident there, maybe the one or another remembers that, of course, from New Prime, where Pack was able to get that second place at XP Evo. And since Epos was already qualified, Pack was able to get to the World Cup and ran very deep into it, just came short of Carl Jr. And then we also see Trackmania World Tour Global Playoffs. He got first in there as well as Red Bull Faster. He made it into the final as well, where Granadi denied him the entry into the final 1v1. Yeah, on the flip side, the Elite Cup standings, Geek, they do not look that good so far right now. As you can see here, the best performance is 22nd.
Nope, the best performance is in 9th place that we had in
ninth,
USA,
yeah.
Just short of the top 8. And yeah, indeed, the Elite Cup results haven't been all that good. They do not really reflect the breadth of talent and the outright pace that this man has. And it has been proven not just like in the last few years, but it has been proven a long time ago, as you're going to be seeing in the career highlights. We start off with November 7th, 2016, in the Mania Planet World Cup, which was held as part of the UB30 events, 30 years of Ubisoft. And that was the grand final between Pack, Carl Jr., Tweed, and Massa. Pack, who reached finalist status first ahead of Carl Jr., and you'll be able to see here we're towards the final corners of Brain Lag from Thompson, which was the map that decided it all. Carl tried to go for the attack, but you could see a bit of an awkward line through that corner, allow Paco to actually make his way through and just send it all the way to the jump into the risky finish and validate his first place, and thus become the first man in 3 years at that time to claim a world championship. And you could see it was a very different time from the venue that this took place in as well.
I think there was even a security control. There was a nice vlog from Spam as well, courtesy also to that footage. So thank you very much, Spam, for allowing us to use that. But let's jump 5 years in time here, the Trackmania Grand League Fall Edition, where it was played in a slight different format in there. We had 2 lappers that have been played there, and Pack, we had a complete different format with knocking out players when they are a certain time behind from checkpoint to checkpoint, and Pack was able to win against Afi here. It was back then Eminem versus BDS, and Pack won another title here. TMGL it was. Then 1 year later, there was also another event that I attended as well, where Pack played above the Arctic Circle against Carl Jr., Binks, and Tween in the grand final, and Pack took it all home. I still remember I talked to him before the final took place, and he had a heart rate of 70. This guy is really the Giga Chat.
Yeah, indeed. And just look at the trophy ceremony. There's the dignitary giving the cup, and look at the big plushy salmon that everybody in the final got. That was probably one of my highlights for the Arctic gaming experience. And then we come to November 1st, 2025, the Palais des Sports de Paris during the Trackmania World Cup. He was alongside Carl Jr. to play against Jetlag, and you can see there it was a clutch finish that would allow Solary to win on a 10-9 score, 4-0 overall. And there was a bit of unfinished business that these two wanted to attend to. As you may have remembered last time out, they missed out on the championship in 2023 in Montpellier when they got beaten by the Carmine Corp. Well, 707 days from that fateful day in Montpellier, they finished the storybook chapter in the best manner possible by lifting the trophy together and being a little bit playful about it as well. And that just concluded such a beautiful story for both of them. I was even a little bit teary-eyed when we were actually concluding the cast on the French side of things. And yeah, this just a little bit of a outlook over Pack's illustrious career. It's very much impossible to be very exhaustive about these things, because when you talk about the caliber of players like Pack, Brent, Carl Jr., and so on and so forth, there's a lot of story to be told. And there's also another story to be told in the fact that Pack is definitely one of the key contenders for the top 8, who are trying to qualify for EWC, also for Birmingham, and also for the ENC qualifying. And this is the next thing that we wanted to show you, because we have a little bit of a progression graphic about the race for the top 1 in ENC. And this is how it looks like on the UK thing, on the UK rankings. You can see Epos, courtesy of his back-to-back top 5 and top 6s in both France and USA respectively, is very much clear ahead of the field. But you can see Wizzy, Josh, Jadon, and Pack, they've had a pretty low-key start, and they're looking to turn things around not only today, but also for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Wizzy also with great performance on China and Brazil. I think getting 5th or like top 7 in all of those rounds. So that is still not so bad for him. Epos with consistent performances all along on France and USA. Then on Brazil and China, he was falling off a little bit, but getting still some nice points in there. But as you already said, it's very close there between all of those other players in there. Jadon, Josh, and Wizzy all close together. Pack still missing out on his real big just scoreline, but I think today it could definitely happen. So a player to follow, as well as the likes of Mime, who's also missing out on a couple of points. But Epos is definitely in reach for all of the players that are behind right now.
Yeah, indeed. And over in the France thing, this is going to get a little bit hectic here, because just by the sheer volume of competition in France, and you can see, of course, Binks managing to retake that spot of leader, and you can see towards the tail end of the graphic from the USA to Brazil, taking advantage of a somewhat earlier exit from Wosal compared to last time out to regain that top spot, but you can see it's still very close between these two, and these two are starting to break away in the rankings, and the rest, they are a very thick line, and they're trying to go for their first wins of the season as well. Binks yet to come away with a win, still the points leader. Wosal with his first win. Bren looking for his first win. Same for Nyko. Same, of course, for Otak. You can see the different colors associated with the different players there. And there is going to be a lot of scope for these rankings to shift about for the ENC standings at the top 1 France over the course of this race and, of course, the other half of the season. Now, we only have 2 minutes to go before qualifying, so we're going to go a quick fire round for all of the calendar, for our bespoke calendar for the Trackmania news for all the events that are happening. First of all, this weekend, there is the finale of Season 3 of the Beacon World League. There was the promo relegation that was played a little bit earlier on. Richie and Manta are maintained through to Division 1 for next season. And tomorrow will be the playoffs, where the top 8 of Division 1 will try to battle for the title of Beacon World League champion, and 7 of them will try to dethrone Epos. The finals are tomorrow, starting at 3 p.m. Central European Time.
And then also we had another event that kicked off this week. It was BTL, and there was Stage 1 already happening. Stage 2 will be today at 8 p.m. CET. then we also have another great event coming back, and that is a collaboration between the Formula E and Trackmania, which is a weekly short campaign that will be released. I think 3 of them, Geek.
Yeah, 3 of them will be released in 3 different intervals. The first one is literally tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central European Time, and there are some prizes up for grabs. And I've read the press release, and I can already tell you that the winner of each one of the 3 sets of weekly shorts will get rewarded with 2 tickets to attend the race that is nearest to their place of residence in Season 12. That is next season, when the Gen 4 cars, the bigger, bolder, faster cars, are being launched. This is going to be exciting. So yeah, weekly shorts, make sure to mark that down tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central European Time. Then in terms of the other events happening, there is TSCC happening next week, where nations are pitted against each other in 3v3 format. And then there's also the Big Land Race. And then, of course, 2 very important dates to note. The weekend of March 29th, DreamHack Birmingham, the Road to EWC qualifier. Well, we will know the first 8 players to be qualified for the Esports World Cup. And also, there is $20,000 of cash prize to be split among the top 24. And the other date that we can say, that we've already said before, April 15th, the release of the Spring campaign, which will also include the 5 maps that will be used for the Elite Cup Season Spring, which will be on May the 2nd. Now, much like last week, we had prepared a map preview, but I think we're going to be cut a little bit short because we're literally starting in 30 seconds with qualifying. That's just how much we're trying to pack things in these pre-shows. We hope you appreciate the thoughts and the work that we put into these shows, because there's just so much stories to tell in Trackmania, not only in the Elite Cup, but also outside of the Elite Cup, with some story recaps that we try to basically incorporate into all these things.
Yeah, I mean, next time we have to start even earlier by the looks of it, that we can't put the map preview in there. But there's a lot of things going on. I was like, when we were like just through the map preview, I was like, yeah, we are in time today. But certainly we are not, because we are starting, and well, the map preview, you're just gonna see the map on stream, and we're gonna follow the respective players. So of course, we have 50 minutes of time where the players set the fastest time possible. They need to drive a time within the first 10 minutes, and then you can still improve within 5 minutes of time, and the top 64 will be ranked into the Elite Cup match. All right, so we have Greece today. I would say a bit of an OG map, a bit easy, but then the ending is definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, indeed, the ending definitely something to look out for as we're following along with the current championship leader, Muda, back-to-back winner in France and in China, of course, as we're going through the big NASCAR turn where you're kind of like taking a leap of faith, as you were telling me a little bit earlier on, because you're kind of relying on muscle memory to lift the throttle at the right time and get back on the throttle at the right time to get the proper line through that long double left-hander. And now we go towards the end. This is where dreams can be made or broken, essentially, in this particular part in the identity, as we go onto the final staircase. Muda giving us a showcase of how to take this in a somewhat sedate manner, not full sending it. We're going to be probably seeing some people full sending it in the leaderboard that you see on the left-hand side of the screen. He's going to start us off with a 113.437, which is not too shabby, and already we're seeing the marks on the eSport map being taken down a notch. It was a 0.1 by the time we were actually taking the notes. It used to be Leinster that was the world record holder, and now Epos dipping into the 0.0s with a 0.050, and I have a feeling that we may be seeing a 112 there.
Yeah, I hope that we're gonna see a 112, and I'm also looking forward to see what the different lines will be on this kind of map, right? I mean, we have already speculated about the jump at the start. Maybe this will be faster or slower. What will happen there? We don't know, as I'm still trying to find the right server here, because of course there's multiple servers that we're on there, and right now, of course, we are with the POV of Muda, and he already set the tone. Not sure if he will be safe with that time into Division 1 though.
Yeah, 0.4 might be a little bit, well, we were talking qualifying cutoff. Some people were expecting maybe a 113.6. That was in light of the 0.1s that were driven a little bit earlier on. 0.6 would still be around half a second, which is right in the ballpark of what we were getting with Brazil and with USA, and that seems very, very much pace conducive compared to what we saw earlier on in the season, but I think we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, we have to wait and see, as I'm still trying to find a server with a suitable player on that regard. Maybe I can join your server as well, but I think here I have an okay server, even though I'm just trying my best. But, well, Greece, it's definitely a nice map. We have this ice slide and also just like normal Gear 4 your 4 tech section beforehand. So I would say this map is definitely not too hard, but it can be quite deceiving, especially with that NASCAR turn being intertwined into this map as well.
Yeah, exactly, as we're still currently following along with Mudda. And just as a quick reminder, all of the servers are very different. It's the players are spread across multiple servers. We're just showcasing Mudda. We might be trying to join another server later on as soon as he can finishes this particular run, because he looks to be an improvement, although he lost a little bit getting into the plastic there. Going through the big NASCAR turn, big lift going into it, entered very much on the outside of the corner. As a reminder, he sits on the 0.412, looks to be heading into the 0.3s and maybe even the high 0.2s, as he currently looks to be driving right now, going over the crest, over the hill, lands on the dirt nice and easy, and now to the identity, which is where that run can very much go in the toilet if you approach it wrong. So far so good. Pretty safe approach there for Mudda, but gets a huge slowdown on the landing. Yeah, that's a very heavy set landing for Mudda, and that's going to be voiding his run, but he decides to practice a little bit because this is an area where there is going to be a lot of shifting about, and if you're thinking about taking the safe way, it adds the best part of 2.5 to 3 seconds, so don't even think about it.
Yeah, don't even think about it. Because, you know, you practice... No, not sure if you even practice that safe way in that regard. But let's see what server you're joining on right now. Because I'm on a server with Scrappy, Afi, and Yami, which is a great server to follow. Let's see on what server you are
on. With Tona.
Okay, you're on Tona.
Tona,
that's
Evan,
also a good
and
one.
Propanoia, who was in the top 10 at some point. And let me just quickly refresh to see where he is at the moment. He currently sits in 12th with a 0.506.
That's definitely not a bad time here by the looks of it, but let's actually see what the cutoff already is here after the first 5 minutes. That would be very interesting to see of what players are actually able to do. So of course the leader right now is Binks with a 0.288, and then on P64 right now we have Chameau with a 114.089. So definitely not a bad time, but I think this will very, very soon drop out of that. And then there's Tween on 85th, for example. Mark is on P90 right now with a 114.689. I think he has a 0.08 as a PB. So he needs to step it up because his time would definitely not be enough for the top 64.
Yeah, and another guy whose time would not be enough for the top 64 right now is Tona, currently sitting on a 114.126. That sends him currently in P78 as we speak. And Evan currently sitting on the 113.5. He's right in the middle of the field, trying to get the position that he currently is, 0.5. That puts him in the number 19 spot so far. That's good work for the young Polish player as we continue to follow along with him. Seems to be on an improvement, maybe looking to get into the 0.4s. That's very close to actually brushing the outside wall with the right rail. That gave me a bit of a heart flutter as we go onto the identity. I tried to go on inside, get the clip. There is a specific clip. If you do the clip in a certain way, you can skip some penalty surface and thus approach the final corner with the final identity with more speed, actually.
Yeah, it's very hard to do that, and of course with the speed, it's sometimes a bit different. Of course, when you really approach it with that nosedive, because you have to open up the steering quite a bit, and if your angle is then off, and you might have more or less speed, then the first couple of jumps will be a bit awkward because there's so many so many transitions that you need to clear in the ending, and this is really the bread and butter of this map. There's of course a lot of hard jumps coming up beforehand, also this NASCAR turn that Propanoia is right now playing through us, and he's also on a really good time by the looks of it. Let's see if he can hold it together. Nope, he goes into the wall, but that's exactly the line that you want to aim for. But he already has a great time, so that's probably only just practicing and trying to keep everything together.
Yeah, indeed, as we're just going to go for a quick leaderboard check with 7 minutes and 15 seconds left on the clock. Pack, Sigeth said it in the chat. Pack in the pre-show, pack number 1. That's the pre-show buff, ladies and gentlemen. 113.120 for the man from Vitality, who leads Neon by 53 milliseconds. Another young Polish player as well, making some solid rounds. Bing sitting in 3rd, Heave in P4. Great results so far in qualifying for the man from Weibo Gaming. Carl Jr. sitting in 5th, Elk on 6th, Brent 7th, Mola 8th. Wizzy 9th, and Afi currently sitting in the top 10 and looking for a better turn of fortunes compared to what he experienced in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, so very good performance there from Pack in the lead currently, so you love to see that. That was only because we talked about him beforehand, of course.
Totally.
I just hope that he can keep it I just hope that he can keep it together in this regard, because this is a great time. And as we just speaking of the devil, I also talked about Pack within the same breath as Mime. I'm on a server with Mime right now, as he has a 113.5. So that's also a great time, where he currently finds himself on P number, what is that? Something along like P30-ish. So he should be safe, but he will definitely improve. Okay,
1.5, I will try to tell that in just a second.
Yet.
He's in 31st, just behind Devon.
Yeah, he's currently on a great time. He's 0.1 ahead, but I want to see the identity from Mime as well. He also goes for the nose dive. Of course, you cannot see that. And then, of course, the nose always dips a bit differently down, so he can skip more or less penalty. And I think this will be the hard part for the players to face. How consistent the speed is looking like at the end. How are you able to control it, this nose dive? Will you go for it? Will you find a consistent strat? Because if you nose is really going down by a lot, you will skip a lot of that penalty surface, because if you land with your nose first, you slow down less from the penalty, and that is very much something that players have to consider.
I want to chime in and give you something funny. You know, we talk about Pack. Well, we did Pack pre-show, Pack number 1 slot, and if this isn't the sign of things to come, then I don't know what is. I've just joined the server, and Pack is currently at the top of that server as well with that 0.120, currently trying to get some more rounds in. So it feels like everything's converging, maybe telling us some signs that Pack might be on for a good result today. Maybe?
That would be so cool. That would be so cool if Pack would actually win it today. But it really feels like for me that this is probably one of the most liked maps from the players, just from my general impression. You know, I think this is a very forgiving map, maybe except the ending. Of course, it's a bit longer, but I do think that this map is good, and I think also fun to practice. But I see a lot of mistakes happening, not in the staircase case as well, but also in this drift sector that Pack will approach here very soon after that leap of faith, after that NASCAR turn. This drift is so important to get afterwards, but let's see what Pack is able to do there. Of course, 2016 tag world champion. This drift is so important to get, because you can get so much exit speed out of it, then tight into wide exit from that dirt sector. But Pack is getting some good runs in, and at the end, of course, not the fastest time matters, Geek, but consistency. And that is the nosedive I was talking about. That looked consistent to me.
Yeah, this looks to be pretty consistent to get. Now, the identity does manage to get it through nice and clean. This is more practice for what's going to be coming, of course, with the KO. Decides to respawn. Okay, maybe try
just practicing it, yeah?
Yeah, just practicing the identity. Yeah, makes sense. I was a little bit skeptical, but now it totally makes sense now that you mention it. So, yeah, Pack, of course, he's already secured #1 qualifier, or close to #1 qualifier, so he doesn't really have to worry about posting a great time right out of the gates. He's got 4 minutes to really dial himself in to these particular sections, especially the identity, to make sure that he doesn't get many nasty surprises or any nasty surprise at all in KO. And you were mentioning, well, the tag background of Pack. We've already said about that with the 2016 World Championship, but one thing that I wanted to highlight that we couldn't get into the career highlights, funnily enough, due to how packed our pre-show already is the fact that at the tail end of the Trackmania 2 Stadium competitive life, he won the 2 biggest tech tournaments the game had ever seen, the From Zero to Hero Revival and the Century Solo Tech. And fun fact, both of the grand final matches were with the exact same 4 players. He played against Carl, he played against Tween, and he played against Novice as well. Yeah. At the time, it was Tween P2, Carl P3, and Novice P4, and From Zero to Hero. And then Century Solo Tech, it was Novice 2nd, then Carl 3rd, then Tween 4th. Talk about fortunes.
Yeah, this is really something. And also Mime improving here, 0.3. So also a great time from Mime. But yeah, Pack has been like just a veteran in the scene. Of course, started with Trackmania Canyon and then branched out into Stadium as well. And Canyon, he was also very, very successful. So that was very good to see. But it really feels like the identity in the end here, this last part seems very important, because you can also get a nosedive like Pack got there. And that one is very important to get, because you really want to be in control of the car as soon as possible. And if your nose drops down, the good thing then is that you land earlier, and then you can steer earlier as well. So that is very important to get. And you don't want to get like an awkward bounce where your car is really like just flunging into the direction of the hole, and then you cannot readjust, or you have to release, or you just go into the hole. That is very important. But I really wonder what the main mistakes will be, because also on USA we thought, okay, it might be the first water pipe jump. That was the case for the first couple of rounds, but then actually the dirt flick was the place with almost the most amount of mistakes. What will it be here? Will it be also the drift in the end before the dirt sector? Will it be the last exit? Will it just be the whole identity? I don't know.
That's one thing to keep an eye out of. I was busy. Someone wanted to get a little bit of a check-in on some of the players, with Audi specifically sitting at 51st. And if you want to check the leaderboard for yourself, make sure to check the message that has been pinned at the top of the chat, and make sure to go to the qualifier tab. That way you get to see everything over on Trackmania.io. Let's go for one final server join, shall we? See if we can get some more different players with 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the clock for qualifying. And if I can... Oh, there we go. We got Heave actually at the top of the server, 113.3. That puts him in P5. You also find out with Huzo on the server, but he might be the first one not to make it, and he decides to call it a day. Yeah, 114.1. That sure will not make it at all. And in terms of some of the other players that we've seen, you see on the bottom 5, Jean-René in 60th, Paul in 61st, Flimsy in 62nd, the man from Ohio from Team Onyx, Key in 63rd, and Jaka in 64th. But are there going to be any scope for changes there over the last 40 seconds? That's a big question.
Yeah, but also the gaps already, like 113.7 is needed. Will it even be a 0.6? I was spectating Ender, who sadly failed it. He's currently sitting on a 0.8, so he will not make it into Division 1. But currently the cutoff for 64th position is Paul with a 113.710. So he's 0.59 behind the leader, so still very, very close in between there. But also then behind Pack we have Elcon, who's very fast, Neon in there as well, and then Mime on P7 from that before mentioned run. But here we go, the last 10 seconds, the last opportunity for players to just get a time through. And then we're going to see what the last ranking is looking like. Will it be enough for Paul or not? Because right now Flimsy is on 65th, Key on 66th. And let's do one more refresh and see who actually made it into Division 1.
And Paul should be in by just 8 milliseconds ahead of Flimsy. And that is just a very, very close call that you saw at the very tail end. And it seems as though, yep, unfortunately, we have to say an early goodbye to one of the star players from last week. Tona, it's been nice knowing you. 81st place, 113.8. Yeah, just to get a little bit of a rundown, 0.120, and the top 64 cutoff was a 0.71. So just a bit wider compared to what we had over the course of both USA and Brazil. But still, that's slim pickings. That's really slim margins, isn't it?
Yeah, but also the map is quite long, 1 minute and 13 seconds. That is like roughly 10 seconds longer than the maps that we've seen already, if we take that into consideration, right? I mean, the cutoff from last week, let's take a look. The time was a 103, so the map is 10 seconds longer than the map that we've had last week. And if you then take that into consideration, I think this is still very, very tight between the players.
Yeah, as we are now on the main division server, you can see a little bit of a aerial shot of the overall map with that nice ice slide that you see almost front and center of the screen. If we can get a little bit of a higher distance, there we go. You can see a bit more of the map. You can see the entire map from there with a big dirt section coming in there before the identity rings the bell, of course. And then that safe way that we mentioned, that's towards the lower left of the game screen. And this is the way that you probably don't even want to think about taking. It might be just even be better to respawn the identity if you fail it early, because as mentioned, it costs you the best part of 2.5 to 3 seconds, maybe even more than that, due to how meandering and how convoluted the path really is.
Yeah, I do think that, I think no one is going for it unless we have like 2 DNFs, and then maybe someone wants to figure out that way and maybe discover it for the first time. But then you could also run into danger of then not finishing at all. But we are on the server and the match starts in 3 seconds. So let's quickly go through it, because this one works a bit different than your usual cup of the day. Because here we have, of course, 1 grace round. That is normal. But then onwards from the first round, where we have eliminations, there will only be 2 instead of 4 eliminations, up until 16 players, where we then have only 1 elimination per round. So that leaves us, including the grace round, with 40 rounds to be played with. And since this map is a bit longer, it will be a bit of a marathon, because 10 seconds longer You know, that is 400 seconds added to the time played. So that is quite something. But good luck, have fun to the players here. Of course, there's a lot on the line here. A lot of players looking for good results, and a lot of players need to defend their first positions and just nations ranking.
Yep.
But this is just do or die for them. As this marks the halfway point, then we go on a break, though.
Yeah, then we go on a break, a couple of weeks, with Birmingham, of course, in between, and then 2 weeks before the end of the break, there will be the new maps as well. So there's going to be a lot of time for players to regroup, refocus, kind of reoxygenate themselves and get themselves ready for the second half of the Elite Cup season, which is going to be more important than ever after the first 8 slots into EWC get determined in Birmingham. As we follow along with Wyko, he's one of those players that is looking for an upturn of fortune after barely missing qualifying for 300ths of a second last time out. Currently going through the grace round, trying to get himself a little bit of an eye in, getting his finding his bearings on the map itself in situ. 113.385, the winning round time for Brent here on this grace round. 64 players have been able to make it through. Well, we do see a couple of DNF, but given that this is the grace round, it's all well and good to kind of DNF there. We saw Afi having a bit of trouble getting in there. We saw Richie as well, one of the guys who maintained himself in Division 1 of the Beacon World League a little bit earlier on today. He goes for the double, trying to go for a Beacon World League maintaining himself in Division 1, or promotion in a sense, and trying to go for a good result in the Elite Cup. And that is quite the double to try and perform with 2 very different styles of maps.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been very busy for Trackmania players if they decide to play all of the events possible. And I think I've already seen a player not starting that round. Let's take a look who that was.
Legu
starting late. Oh, 3 seconds late. I mean, he could still be lucky. And also Elcon didn't have a good start here. But of course, this one starts now with 2 KOs. Let's see who falls victim of the eyesight here. Do we see any mistakes in there? Melio going very wide in that sector, but still on there and still looking strong. You can or you lose the gear in the ice slide because you want to go very tight. You want to travel as little distance as possible, but already Lego catching up here to Kakne and Lingo. Kakne is also in that red position right now, but Lego needs to overtake both of them. But I think mistakes will definitely happen in this ending here.
Yeah, and the gaps have been made very wide. And Dark, actually, who made the top 64, also had a bit of a slow ice slide, so he slid towards the back end of the field. We're following along with Cockney, another American player from Team Onyx, the man from Missouri this time, trying to chase down Lingo, the Canadian player from Quebec. And Watson from Portugal slowed dramatically before the start of the identity, before even the jump, so that might be the saving grace of Cockney. Propanoia as well, looking very slow at the identity, might be on his way out. Watson has DNF'd, Legu might be thrown a lifeline thanks to Propanoia, and it is in fact Chemko that will actually get bumped from the field, or is he bumped from the field? Propanoia is behind! Chemko, saved by the bell, has an opportunity to get ahead of Birdie in the Turkey standings and try to get a solid shot of getting Turkey into ANC top 16.
And that's already a huge knockout here with Propanoia. He looked very good in the actual qualifier, and he will not make it. He was on P number 35, so he, I think, also had a very good time in the overall ranking, so he is getting eliminated. And Chamko, of course, being lucky there that he had a DNF, and Propanoia also having to respawn, but since Chamko respawned a bit earlier, we've seen Propanoia with that mistake beforehand, but he decided to just continue, but then fell off of the map and didn't make it. So Chemko is still in, and let's go into the next round. Kakne now 1 second behind. Hollow also in there, but Kakne not with a good line there by the looks of it. I think he slightly clipped there, so losing more and more time, but he sees Auris and Hollow in front of him, but still needs to do some more catching up here in order to make it into the top 60.
Yeah, currently following along with Auris as he tries to follow along the back of that huge 60-car group that is just ahead of him. Currently being brought to a close by Narkor, the Polish driver, which we're seeing once again after a great performance earlier on in the season on France qualifier. A little bit of a teleport there from Dark, I think, but everything is okay for the Frenchman. Wizzy this time being hit with a slow bug at the landing of the slow before the identity. Cockney is able to take advantage of that. It looks as though we might have maybe lost Tweed in that. Oh, Cockney with a huge clip. Melio slowing down as well. Both looking to be getting knocked out, and they will get knocked out. Tweed had a very inauspicious start to the identity, but huge clips from both Melio and Cockney have saved the Slovak driver in a very, very important round.
But also Bren here clipping at the end and just falling down the rankings. So he was also almost facing elimination if everybody just had survived that. But we had 62 cars, of course, on the track between P60 in that round when it started. Means that he was the last player in, and he can call himself a bit lucky there. But now Bren didn't get a good start, so he might be the player here to follow. He's 0.4 behind, but he catches up quite quickly. And there was a first mistake there in this drift sector. Who was that?
Skandir.
It was Skandir.
Huge. That was actually a huge clip from the left rear from Skandir, and he came to a dead stop from our perspective.
Oh, but look at Narkor and Jan both failing as well, and Skandir, of course, very good at those kind of RPG sections. He's considered one of the best, if not even the best RPG player that is out there, and he overtook Narkor and Jan in that sector because both of them didn't get a good exit from the ice side. And I think Skandir, let's actually focus on him and see what he's able to do in this identity. If he's able to catch up to Massa, who currently finds himself in the leads. Bimi also in there, looking good, just playing it safe. But of course, just failing this identity will send you all the way back to this particular checkpoint. But let's see how much Skandir is able to catch up. Will he catch up? Is he saving it? No, he's fully risking it. As you can see, Skandir with a beautiful identity from 1.9 seconds behind to actually caught up just a little bit. So not too much, but Wizzy almost out again. Narkor and Jan out on 60th and 59th.
Wizzy with a bit of a lucky shot here on that one. Came to almost to a stop at the very end of the identity as he dropped out of the staircase, and thus giving a little bit of a glimmer of hope for Narkor to slide on through, but the gap was already too big to make up, and thus the Polish player will be knocked out in P59. As we go into round number 5 here on Greece. We're only an eighth of the way through this. There are still 36 rounds, including this one, to go, and we're going to be following along with the lucky dog from last time out, which is, of course, Wizzy, the wheelman from Team GB, one of those that have joined the free agency ranks, quote-unquote, as him and Jan have been put on as unrestricted free agents and are looking for opportunities to get themselves signed with a top team, and both of these drivers really deserve a shot at this. Maybe not with that Swans though, and that's exactly in the same manner that Link went out last week. Gets an unfortunate clip just as he crosses the checkpoint, completely voiding that respawn once and for all. Evan gets promoted up to P57 as a result of this, but he's got even bigger problems to actually take care of because he's 4/10 away from being saved.
Yeah, but good call there of spectating Wizzy. A bit of a caster curse, one could say, because he spectated him, and that's the only player who majorly fell behind. Evon's still on there, still chasing them down here. Good approach into there, catching up to Elcon here, and also to Auris. Evon, however, with a small drift there and falls off the map.
Oh,
we see
Mimo
plenty
as well.
of respawns. Mimo as well, and Wizzy all the way up to piece 56 there by just staying alive and not failing the identity. So Wizzy again being in this round, and also Mimo Jr. because Richie failed as well. I didn't spot that one. So Mimo won the individual fight against Evon there, and Evon is down to 57th.
Yeah, Evon down to 57, and for the man from Team Tescott, Richie, it was not meant to be to try and go for the double with great results. It still was a pretty productive day for him, though, so all things considered, it wasn't all that bad. But yeah, I was trying to be a salesman for Wizzy, and then kind of made me a liar, and then got himself saved. And Elcon was not going to be able to save himself from that start. Checkpoint 1 already 1.3 seconds down for the man from Team Nemesis, who comes off of a top 5 finish last week, is going to have a lot of catching up to do, and he is going to have to pray for mistakes that are going to have to happen from the leading group. But mistakes have been aplenty so far, and so there is still scope of opportunity for Elcon to get himself back in a survival position as we follow along with Chalik, one of the players from Team BS Plus, who got extended, of course, a little bit earlier on this month for the remainder of 2026 with the Munich-based organization. Dark currently at the tail end of that group, trying to catch up with Solja for survival. Solja currently holds the last survival position in 54th. We also see Coco just ahead of him. Awe Friedrich from Team Va Bene as well. The Italian having a bit of a shaky entry into checkpoint number 11, will thus slide back into P53, 54, thereabouts. But here comes the main choke point. The identity, and Friedrich goes too close to the wall and allows Dark to move through along with Elcon. And Auris also looking to be slow in the identity. Could this be the cue for Elcon to swoop in and take 54th away? Otak for the second consecutive week gets knocked out. Oh, I didn't see what Nighttech, what happened to Nighttech. He respawned the identity. Oh my goodness. I was getting a little bit a little bit antsy there because that would have been back-to-back early knockouts for Otak, which would have been absolutely disastrous to his Elite Cup standings, but he got saved by the mistakes from both the Way British early on and Nitek, who had to respawn the identity, I suspect, more than once.
Yeah, Otak, they're very lucky. He, of course, got 64th in the first iteration of the Elite Cups, then 15th, 3rd, and 40th. So he still is in need of another good result to just overtake Naiko, Bren, Binks, and Wosal here, who are still ahead of him in the national ranking. So he is in, but yeah, mistakes do happen quite often, and it's hard to spot them if there's 50 plus cars on the racetrack. But let's go into round number 7. Let's see who makes a mistake first here. Maybe let's go into the full all cam and see if someone is behind. It's Mimo Jr. and also Razi, who has been making a mistake. The ice exit is very hard. Either you go very inside, losing the gear, then of course you need to make sure to make that turn, but you can also go very wide there and hold that gear, but then the turn, because you go so wide and your tires are still affected by the ice, makes it so hard, so clungy to just hit that turn. And I think Spam went for that line, just trying to hold that gear in that sector. But, well, this time it didn't work out that nicely for Razi. Jemko slowed down. Mimo with a good chance here because Jemko will not get the nosedive. Mimo will catch up here quite significantly. Also to Naiko, who has been making Division 1. Mimo with a good approach here. Tween falling off of the map. And I think Tween will get eliminated. Mimo clipping though, but it's inconsequential. He will still stay alive. And also Josh will actually get overtaken by Tween here.
Oh, and Razi as well. Razi's in.
Earlier respawn and Tween will stay in. Never mind, Razi stayed in. Never mind, Razi was still in there. I completely forgot about him. Razi, of course, full stop after the ice, but since he didn't respawn the identity, he is in.
Now, when it comes to spectating, I hope you can bear with us because this very much feels like a France 2 Electric Boogaloo here because there is a lot of stuff that happens. It's especially prevalent here in the early rounds where it seems to be chaotic, left, right, center, just non-stop things happening as we go on to round number 8. And we're going to be following along with Naiko, currently at the tail end of the leading group. No big mistakes to note actually at the start, so that's a first clean start, I guess, as we go on board with the man from 50 Sports, still looking for a first very big result since joining the Turkish organization. Of course, he came in second place on the fronts round early on in the season before he got signed on by Foot. As we go through the first set of drop downs, the first staircases, we do see that Scrappy and Lingo have fallen by the wayside, and the Belgian Mola as well has hit the pole at the exit of that staircase, so Scrappy is somewhat safe for now, but he's still very much in the wars as we're going to be trying to go for the helicopter camera a little bit later on for the identity as well, as we're going towards the top end of the field with Afi, the Swiss driver, currently having a stellar round, battling with Otak and Neon, who's also doing a solid opening to this particular knockout as well. A bit of a wall brush from Afi, which is going to slide him back to the middle of the field. He's still very much in a position to save his place as we go on the identity now, and Noisia slows down dramatically. The Argentinian driver allowing Lingo and Crappy through. They might both be saved, and the Argentinian might be on the way out, unless Yek and Holo are forced to respawn. Same for Lingo, same for Bimmy. A lot of positions shifting about. Mola stays alive, so does Holo. Bimmy and Lingo are out.
It really seems like the last part is just the bread and butter of this map because there's hardly any checkpoint coming up. There's no checkpoint coming up at the identity. And if you fail the penultimate jump or just even jump 3 or 4, well, you have to respawn. And that is a huge time loss. So it really seems like you want to make sure to get this one through. And if you are like 3, 4, 5 seconds behind, just pray. Pray that the one or another makes a mistake. Of course, mistakes are more likely to happen in those kind of rounds where still a lot of players are in, as we have seen it in the round from beforehand. But here we go. Let's go into the next round. Round number 9. Spam, not with a good start here into this round, as well as Mime. Both last on the checkpoint, but they still are in close proximity towards the others. Here, Costo will have an awkward exit there, as well as Tialic and Bren as well. And Area also falling behind here, as well as Afi. So many position changes in the end of this first sector here, as Area's a bit further behind. But let's go with him and see if he can like if he will stay in on this round. Because
he's a little bit far behind.
Can.
He can stay behind. He can stay alive, but I think he's a bit further behind compared to where we want him to be. And Afi takes advantage of a bit of a slowdown from Heave going into checkpoint 11 to allow himself to move back into the safe haven of 48th position, but he's still very much not out of woods just yet. As we go towards the identity now, let's see if there are any big crashes or respawns that are inbound, and Area might be
Neon
on the way out. Neon, Bobo as well, and that will likely be the end of the road for both Neon and Bobo. Azaria will be through in 48th position. Neon down in 49th. Bobo in P50. I think Bobo held the world record, or if he still holds the world record in the campaign version of the map, where he had a pretty insane identity, all things considered. I wanted to put a little bit of a period on Spam, which we briefly saw here on this round. He's not feeling particularly well, has been pretty sick for the last 2 days, hasn't really practiced. He said himself he feels like 40%, so he's very much putting on a bit of a gritty performance, trying to go rounds and trying to make a deep run there. And once we are there, I want to come in there and wish him a full and speedy recovery, because it always hurts whenever someone of our community is ill. Get well soon, Spam.
Yeah, get well soon, Spam. And it really seems like that if you're last on the checkpoints before the identity, well, you've somewhat survived. You just try to make it through, just try to survive the identity and pray for mistakes. And I think the last 2, 3, 4 rounds really have put evidence to that, as we see a good start from all the players. Only Area again falling a bit further behind here. 1 second it is, but of course this will all nullify in that identity, as Barbos also didn't get a good start. Then we see Aurel in the pack as well. Haven't seen too much from Aurel in this season here, all things considered. I think he has only played 1 iteration so far, and that was last week, where he got 32nd place. So good to see Aurel being back. But let's go into the identity again. Who will respawn first? Will we see a non-respawn round here? It looks very good, but no, there's one from Skandir, and that is a huge knockout from Skandir. He's one of the most talented players when it comes to just transitions and RPG style, but he has maybe risked a bit too much, and he allows his fellow countryman Area to live another round, as well as Scrappy, both on 45th and 46th position. So that is good to see for them. Yakosto and Skandir are eliminated, but only 1 mistake in this round in the identity.
Yeah, and one of the guys who was very much probably pitched as one of the guys to really make a deep run here on this particular map, the gold medalist of the RPG event of the Trackmania Games, is already sent home packing and disconnecting after that early knockout. We go on to round number 11, and we go with the man of the moment, the man who all signs seem to be pointing maybe towards a good result at long last. Finally, a top 8 maybe for Pack. We've had him on the player profile. We've had him at the top of the leaderboard in qualifying after we talked about him, and then as soon as I tried to join the server, it was already Pack at the top of the
stars
leaderboard.
align.
And yeah, that was just, yeah, there might be something in for Pack. In the meantime, Dark with a very heavy crash will be down in 46th position. New Prime down to 45th, still has visual contact with Mr. Double Digit Don, J Don from the United Kingdom, from Team Shift. We also see the position shuffling about with Chemko as well, and Area with a huge respawn as well. So New Prime is going to be making himself a little bit of a way into top 44, and even pays himself the luxury of fighting with Mola for 43rd position. He also has Auris and Wizzy just ahead of him. You can see the gaps have quite widened up already as we go in the identity. Let's see if there are any respawns at the gate there. It looks to be somewhat clean. Heave with a bit of a slow landing there, but the gaps were just enough for him to see everyone coming. So Dark gets knocked out, as well as Area in 45th and 46th.
So both players who were behind actually were eliminated from checkpoint 2 ending. Area, of course, having to respawn. Dark had a horrendous mistake and was multiple seconds behind, 7 seconds to be exact. So that was quite something, but it's slowly but surely we winding up and picking up the pace here as players hardly make mistakes. Really reminds me of USA, of how this map is developing right now. But let's go into round number 12. We're not even halfway through, guys. There's still plenty of rounds to be played, 29 including this round here. So there's a lot of Trackmania esports still going on, but let's see who has made that first mistake. It is Jadon, who will not have an the appropriate gear for the ice set as well. So this will compound to an even bigger loss of 1 second to the checkpoint. Mime also not with the best of exits from the ice slide, finds himself in the fight with Legu and also Hollow, but still everything to play for here. For the bottom players, still no one is facing elimination as the last part is still coming up. Jadon still in close proximity, just tries to survive. That should be his game plan. Don't overpush it, but now he touched the wall. This could be very costly, but even a quick respawn would result into a bigger time loss of 2 seconds. But let's go into the free camera again and see who will or who can save Jadon here, because he cannot catch this up by sheer pace. Aurus with a mistake here. By the looks of it, it will be maybe enough for Jadon to overtake, but I think it will be Jadon getting eliminated. But it was so close between Hollow and Aurus 18,000s behind Hollow here. And Hollow is in the top 42, but no mistake here, Geek, in the last sector.
Yeah, and there was maybe a little bit of a glimmer of hope with that slow exit from Hollow, but my word, that was extremely close. As you said, 18 milliseconds between survival and elimination, and Coco must have thanked the lucky stars that were on his side towards the tail end of that particular round, because he had a very awkward line into checkpoint 11, and thus he was on the verge of elimination as well, as we follow along with the Frenchman here through that early sector, that early part of the map. This is where Jadon had a bit of a clip, and we see Paco this time having a significant clip as well, which is going to be sending him back towards last position, some 4/10 down as we go back further up the field with Pika, the Portuguese driver from Team 4 Wheels, currently sitting in 39th, fighting for survival himself, going down the staircase, checkpoint 7, and he will be battling along with Coco and Aurel. Glass has been left by the wayside, 4/10 down. The man from BS Plus, of course, teammate of Challenge and Snow, looking to try and get some gap back up, trying to close that sort of gap that have visually opened up, and it looks as though everything looks virtually set in stone in the first 2 or 3 sectors, but Identity is going to ring the bell right now. Coming up towards that Identity after that little nosedive that you mentioned there. Glass and Paco catching up. Legu slowing down a little bit at the approach of the Identity. Aurel looking also to be towards the tail end of the field. His ghost appearing a little bit more clearly. Legu should still be in. No mistakes at all from the top 40. 1 second, less than a second between first and 40th. Paco and Glass get knocked out without any way back in.
But good effort there from Paco, but it wasn't meant to be. He was pushing it a lot in the Identity and almost caught up there to Legu, his former teammate for the 2023 World Tour. If you guys remember, they barely missed out on qualifying to the offline finals, but then Robbers, which was the team of Razi and Epos, have qualified eventually towards it, but it was so close between them. But now Legu stayed in, but made another mistake here in this round, as well as Noisia. Legu will have more speed for the ice side. Noisia will be a bit awkward for him for the speed out of that one. So Legu will overtake and is up to provisional 39th position, but still a lot of catching up to do. And if the round continues like that, it will be hard for Legu to catch up. Hollow and Feet, not with the best of transitions there from this first staircase, so Legu's have a second behind, but he can probably not catch us up by sheer pace else, or he just has to risk the hell out of it. But he should just stay alive on the map and just needs to rely on a mistake from the one or another player. But so far the gap is standing as it is, half a second between Legu and being in or being eliminated in this particular round. But let's go into the free camera again. Let's see if there's a mistake going to happen. So far it looks very good for the players, and Legu will indeed be eliminated after that early mistake, as well as Noisia, who pressed DNF.
Yeah, Noisia has decided to retire early. He knew that the gap was pretty much unrecoverable by the way the round had developed, and decided that it was probably not worth it, and thus did retire. Legu gets knocked out, didn't get any sort of opening after Coco's somewhat slow Identity-ish in that particular round. And yeah, you were right about pointing something out in the chat, because Epos got pipped to the finish by Barbos for the round win. In the meantime, whilst we were focusing on survival, Barbos, the man from Team Shed, formerly of Schweine Aim Racing, has posted a 113.5, and yeah, he was one of the early pace setters, so this is going to be very interesting to see how the German performs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, seeing Barbos back is just super good. He has played one step so far, and this was, I think, USA he has played, where he has also played this map a lot offline, but there he only got P50. So he's already looking to set a new personal best in here. But the question is, how deep can he run? I mean, a good time that he has set there in the round before, and that shows that he is somewhat back. And I mean, a good result could elevate himself up into that battle for the top 8 placement right immediately. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here, because there's still plenty of rounds that will be played, as Barbos didn't get a good transition, drops all the way down into red placement here, battles it out with Hill, Gallage, and Spam, but Razi with a mistake,
Charles as well.
And he will be out, as well as Charles. So 2 mistakes have happened here. Molle gets saved by it, as well as Hill, and also Barbos, who was somewhat on a fight with the others. So Charles top 37, Razi top 38. Let's see, are those results good for them? Because I think Charles, yeah, he got 20, 36, 52, 40 points. Some good placements, but he still needs that one like top 20 placement to lock in his top 16 spot for the esport Nations Cup.
Yeah, indeed. He is making a push for that ENC slot outright and avoid going by the online qualifiers. But Molle surviving, I think this is going to be another one for the Molle orange route counter that was open in quite strong fashion in France. If you were with us, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks ago at this point, where Molle just seemed to continue piling on round survivals, round after round after round. People borderline almost saying that he cannot keep getting away with it, as we follow along with Azion, who didn't get away with a bit of a sluggish start on that particular round. Checkpoint 5, he finds himself about half a second down, but we also see another Frenchman who might be in trouble. Otak, the man from Team Liquid, who had a very lackluster staircase, and Spam with a hefty crash goes a bit wide on the final part of the staircase and crashes heavily onto the side, and that might be all she wrote for the Dutchman from Team Falcons. And now that battle for 34th is going to be very important. One needs desperately points in order to keep pace with the top 8. That's the man you see on screen right now. The other one, Azion, has absolutely nothing to lose. 34th, 35th. The positions are going to be swapping out corner after corner as we go towards the helicam, which is going to be a little bit further removed, but we're going to try our best to follow all those on the identity. Azion with the slow landing first, and this is going to be good omen for Otak. Coco slow as well. Azion is through. Coco gets bumped from the field in 35th.
Coco is eliminated here, and that is not good for him. He got top 14 and 15 on I think it was USA and also on China, but still looking for his very, very good result where he can really break through into the top 10. And with that, Coco is eliminated. Azion also clipped there a little bit, allowed Otak to just move away from him. But it all didn't matter because Coco had an even bigger mistake. And here we go. Already an important round now, because now the point interval will change from position to position. I think it's then +4 points instead of +2 that players are getting rewarded for. All right, but let's see who makes that first mistake. Holo is our first player, is a bit further behind, make it 0.3 of a second, but every player seems to survive the first part here. But still everything to play for. Holo pushing already, not nosediving or not air braking there, but there's a huge mistake happening. Who was that?
That was Wosal,
the Gen G player who has, of course, won on USA against Gran with a respawn, and he's multiple seconds behind, 7 seconds behind, and he will get eliminated in this round unless a miracle happens to him. Well, let's see who is joining him in this round, because Holo is still in close proximity to the others. Better dirt exit from Holo than the one from Chamco. Now the nosedive, very important to just have it controlled and have similar speed than your PB attempts from before. But Holo with a clip there, and this is all she wrote for him unless someone else had a respawn, but I don't think that this was the case.
Nope.
Holo is out, as well as Wosal.
Yeah, and that is going to have some big implications for the race to the ENC spot for the France contingent, because Wosal was paired right up there with Banks at the very top, as you saw a little bit earlier on in the pre-show and as we showed you in the graph. Here, if I recall correctly, Banks should be still in. Yes, indeed, the man from AG Global is still in contention, so he is going to try to make a run away for freedom here and try to validate that ENC spot somewhat early on and be able to get into the second half of the Elite Cup season a little bit more serenely as the new maps will get revealed. Going on to round number 18 out of 40, top 32, then the bottom 2 get knocked out, and that was a very hefty clip from Heave there.
Yeah, Heave with a mistake. And also, as I told you, the point interval is getting increased now from 2 to 4 points. Only 32 points for Wosa, and that is huge for the remaining French players in there. But 2 of them facing elimination right now, and one of them is Heave, who has made another mistake, is now 2 seconds behind. Aurel also not with the best of sectors here, but still in there, because also Azion has made a mistake. He's now on 31st position and needs a miracle. Of course, mistakes can always happen, but the others should just save it. They should see it in the checkpoint that they have 0.7 of a gap. Azion also not with the best of landings. Is he able to control that? It looks great. Is there any mistake happening from the players here? It doesn't look to be like that. No, it's Mimo who has been making a mistake, so Azion is actually in.
Azion is in, and Heave will miss out on top 30 by over half a second, as the Popo have decided to come away and basically take away the placings from Heave and Mimo Jr. We could briefly hear that in the background. But yeah, all jokes aside, Mimo and Heave, 32nd and 31st. And actually, for both Azion and Heave, the mistakes happened roughly around the same place. It was around the first staircase that it happened, and that was a little bit unfortunate of a landing from Azion, and then a unfortunate clip at the very final drop down on the staircase from Heave, which has cost him dearly. That was compounded with the earlier mistake that he made before checkpoint number 3. Going on to round number 19, we're going to be following along with Brand, the man from Twisted Minds, who was runner-up on the USA 2 weeks ago, currently sitting in the middle of the field. Towards the tail end, we find ourselves at the back of the leading group. No big mistakes to be reported so far. Maybe a bit of a slow exit from that ice slide, courtesy of Pika, and he currently finds himself in a battle with Epos and Naiko, and Aurel with a heavy landing. He was forced to respawn. The Frenchman is out of here. So now it's a battle between Naiko and Epos for survival here. This could be good for some of the BITM players that are in there. Chief amongst which is Pac, who's currently in the middle of the field. You can briefly see his name tag mingled with the rest of the cars, but right now Epos is battling with Naiko for survival, and Otak as well. This is looking very dicey for the Team Liquid players. We're going to be following along with Otak. You can see from the helicopter camera the gaps are quite pronounced, so we're going to be following along with the tail end of the field. Elcon also in the wars. Feed looking to be a little bit slow on the uptake. Very slow landing for him. This is looking very, very racy. Naiko is in. Feed is out by 0.2 of a second. Wow, that was... We expected it to be hectic, but this is one of the most hectic finishes that we've seen so far.
Yeah, this was one of the closest endings that we have seen. Aurel sadly eliminated after that heavy mistake, the respawn. So too bad to see that. And he could have definitely run deeper than top 30. You said this feels like an OG map. And of course, Aurel was part of the Trackmania Grand League for I think all season long. So very good to see that in the past. But I mean, this map here does suit him quite well, as he also comes from an RPG background and is very good on multi-style, but he sadly got eliminated on 30th position. Now Soldier, not with a good exit from the ice side, will lose a lot of speed, and also Pika is down there, but the pace is really picking up here. Mistakes are hardly happening, and if one is happening, well, you face elimination in those rounds. We have Molle still in. Let's see if he can still get another orange position in this round, as he's not too far behind the others. It's 0.2 of a second. Hill not with the best exit. They're having to release another time in order to not crash into the wall, but better to release one more time than to fully stop into the wall and lose more than 2 or 3 seconds. But it's a very good fight. Let's go into the free camera here and see who makes a mistake in the ending. Molle with a beautiful nosedive there, gets a lot of speed, is able to control a Pika, not with a good landing, slows down a little bit. Hill also not with a good line there by the looks of it, but Afi is out, and one of the
Wizzy's out as well.
No way. Both were really in dire need of points, and they're out.
And that is going to be making one other Englishman smile. The man that's finished in 3rd in this round, Epos, is only happy to see another one of his countrymen fall by the wayside, because it continues to confirm him as the leading UK player, both in the EWC standings and the ENC standings as well. That is an unfortunate way to go out for Wizzy.
It's so hectic.
It's so hectic to follow. Again, bear with us as we try to follow along all of this. There's just so much happening, much like it happened on France a few weeks ago. In the meantime, round number 21. We're already past the halfway mark here of this knockout, Kai, and we're going towards 26 players remaining. 24 will remain at the end of this round. Currently at the tail end, it is Chemko, the best place Turkish player by default, I guess we could say that, as he was the only one to be able to make the top 64 cutoff this time around, and Carl Jr. goes a little bit low and gets in the wars.
Yeah, Carl Jr. right now finding himself behind. So the winner of the previous Elite Cup on Brazil, where he won against Massa in the final, right now was on red placement, but moved up to 23rd, overtook New Prime, Tjalic, and Jamko, but still it's only half a second between the players here, and let's see who is facing elimination in this round. Two have to say bye-bye in this round as well. Jamko, again, not going fully outside there, so losing a bit of speed there, but this gives him a very consistent setup for this nosedive, which he doesn't go for, so he loses a little bit more speed there as well, but no one really making a mistake. Azion, though, with a clip and another clip as well, I think, from Pika and Hill as well. So Jamko 21st even.
Azion should be in because Pika respawned again. Yes, indeed.
What is happening? 7 seconds. 7 seconds now. Azion with a quick respawn is still in.
Oh, what is
going on?
Style points for the finish from Pika. They're clipping the hole and thus making his front axle go up in the air and overshooting over the pinch in the road. Man,
the one time I don't go on free camera, this happens.
Our brains, man, our brains are gonna fry from trying to follow everything that happens here. We're down to 24 players. 22 will remain at the end of round number 22, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, actually fun to say that. 22 rounds and then 22 players in after that one. But we only have a couple of more rounds with 2 eliminations coming up. This one and the next one going the top 20, and then 2 more after that. And then there's a huge slide out from one of the favorites that we already alluded to beforehand. It is Barbos, who is 3 seconds behind. But if the round is like the round from last round, well, he will be in. But I think this will be very, very unlikely to happen. Surely, not 3 people will fail it.
Surely. Do we have the 7TV emote Surely in Trackmania? If we don't have it, that's a little bit unfortunate. No, apparently we don't have it. Oh no. Someone fix that, please. Levi, I don't know if you have 7TV performations, but surely you should add that, surely. As we go on to the identity. We're following the perspective of Tjalic for now, as the helicopter camera might be a little bit further away compared to where we might be able to see something useful. And actually, Tjalic full stall picks and will be getting knocked out. Azion continues to make rounds, and that's the second back-to-back round where he finishes in an orange position.
Yeah, it looked so fun that Tjalic was actually backing up, but I mean, it's a bit slower, but I think a respawn at this point is also like, well, I'm eliminated. Everybody else survived it. Maybe even then had Ghost enabled. But Tjalic is out, giving Barbos one more placement up to 23rd he goes. So Barbos out in that position. He got top 50 in the 3rd Elite Cup on USA, and then improved his ranking now to 23rd. But those are not results that he can rely on. But keep in mind, the top 5 results from each person do count. So starting on with a new season, we could also see results getting erased from the players that will not count towards the total ranking. But let's go into the next round. Yes, everybody survives the start. Jamko, however, a bit conservative here, finding himself 0.4 behind the others.
Yeah, and Chemko currently looking to try and mount his fight back. He takes advantage of a bit of a slow landing into the first staircases from Scrappy to move himself back into survival contention. And he has got Lester just up ahead of him, sitting in 20th, just 4/10 down from the leader. The gaps are getting slowly but surely closer and closer and closer. Scrappy just scraping back ahead of Turkish player Chemko, or just rather scraping by ahead of Chemko before he comes back into contention as well. We are now going to the identity. This is looking a little bit more racy. We're cooking with gas now. Half a second between first and last as we go through the nosedive and on to the final staircase, the one where dreams can be made or broken, and the dream will be broken once and for all for Azion. Snow is also looking very slow. Chemko will be making his way into the top 20.
Yeah, very good result here from Jamko. He was a bit further behind. Also, he doesn't go for the nosedive, Geek. He goes for a very conservative dirt exit, which gives him not sufficient speed to just make the nosedive count in the end, because you need certain speed in order to get your nose down onto the grass as well. As there's a lot of honking here going on O'Connell Street in Dublin by the looks of it. And let's go into the next round. Round number 24. Still 2 more rounds left with 2 eliminations. And Carl Jr. and also Muda, they're both still in.
They're both still in it. Chat, I was trying to do something. You saw nothing. Okay, let's get away. Let's make sure we just ended on that as we're going towards top 20. 18 players will remain after this round, round number 24, and we're slowly but surely getting toward the single knockout zones, Kai, as well, with this one and the next round being the last few KO2 round that we're going to see. Pack currently at the tail end of the field, looking for survival as well. He didn't do any big mistakes. He's just towards the tail end. That's just the nature of racing in Trackmania here, and he still has to wait until the identity to really see where his fortunes actually end up. Right now, trying to get back up the pecking order, moving up to P17, following along with Chemko towards the very back of the field. Half a second down compared to the leader, and less than a tenth away from survival. And Epos is in the wars as well. This might be an entire PITM battle between Epos and Pack for survival. Granati is also in the wars as we go in the identity. Let's see what happens. Are there going to be any big heartbreaks for those at the top? Stuffs looks to be slowing down, and a huge crash for the Dutchman, which will send him out. Both Epos and Pack are still in, and Chemko, creditable effort for the man from Turkey. He will get knocked out in 19th position.
But what is that level here? It's absolutely incredible because, you know, usually it's a good sign to not see a player in the, like, we always look in the bottom, like, 6 positions, and we hardly have seen Pack in there. We have not seen Binks in there. Bren was in there, I think, 1 round. Carl also had 1 start, which didn't go in his favor. Then Elcon also had 1 or 2 starts that weren't that good, but this level is absolutely stacked here, and it's everything to play for all the players in here, and there's massive points to be gained for the one or another player. But firstly, they need to survive this particular round. This is very important. It's the last round with 2 eliminations, and Elcon didn't get the best of starts here in that round. But also Massa with a very aggressive inside line with the ice that will not get a good exit here. Is he able to survive? Yes, but he had to release. And also Scrappy didn't get it quite so good, as he is now more than half a second behind. Make it 0.8. Scrappy could end up getting eliminated here in a very important round, because next round you can't really play the format. If a player crashes the outside or the exit of the ice slide, well, you can't just save it, right? You know that you're 2-3 seconds ahead. You don't have to fully push it. Whereas in the other rounds, you still had to rely on you getting a very good identity here. But let's take a look what will happen in this sector, because Massa is catching up quite significantly, but he risked too much. And Massa, the second place from last week, will be eliminated. But Scrappy versus New Prime. Scrappy with a better landing, but it's not enough. And Scrappy will also be out in this round. Ooh, Scrappy's still looking for a very good result. Of course, he got that, I think, top 4 placement on USA.
Yep.
But other than that, he got 39th, 22nd, 31st, and now 17th.
Yeah.
So he needs another top 8 finish to really lock his Belgian spot in.
And let me tell you, that knockout on round 25, just shy of the top 16, has got a sting. No matter the skill level, no matter how much experience you have, just finishing outside on the doorstep of top 16 has gotta hurt. As we go on to round number 26, the first single knockout round here, and we're gonna go single knockouts all the way until the bitter end here on Greece. As we go, checkpoint 4, end of sector 1, going into the ice slide, following along with Pack from Team Vitality, who's gonna be at the sharp end of the field. Exiting the ice slide, looking very good. Currently, Bren at the tail end. Let's go for a little bit of a follow-all camera, the aerial cam, shall we? The helicopter perspective, giving us a good overview of what the field is about. Epos looking a bit slow. Same for New Prime as well, so he's going to be in the wars along with the German. And also Mola is in there as well, trying to fight for survival. Nico just a bit further ahead, gets a little bit slow through the NASCAR part, so we'll drop down to P13 at the present moment. Otak is at the top of the pack, currently sitting a 10th up on his fellow competitors, which are currently Carl Jr., and a slight wall touch from Mola, which is going to be compromising ever so slightly the chances of the Swede to make it through to the top 15. Going to the identity now. Nico might be in trouble. Same for Epos, same for Elcon. It can very much go from one fate to the other. New Prime gets knocked out. Mola survives in yet another orange spot.
Molle is in again, and he is looking very good. He got 20th and 22nd, and now ends up with at least another top 15 finish so far. So a very promising season for him, and he could definitely jump into the top 16 of the ranking here, because I think Jan went out very early already, Flimsy as well. I haven't seen Charles and Razi also went out very, very early on. So Molle can really shuffle it up. And what a great performance from him in on Brazil, and also here, top 15 for the young Swedish player. He has been improving so much in the last year, and it shows. It really pays its dividends here. Plays against the best out of the best. Of course, was a bit lucky here and there, but that's what you also are in need of. Molle now a bit further behind here at the start, but gets a very good eyesight, so he will catch a lot of speed towards Mime, who drops to last position, and also Pagno with a good exit from the eyesight. Oh, Molle almost clipping there, so close it was. Going very wide there, and it's everything to play for here. It's back and forth between the players. Pag, Nico, Molle, and Mime are in the battle here for the last couple of positions. All half a second behind. It's Epos, Carl, and Elcon in the lead, though, but it's all down to that last position in this round. Who will get into the top 14 and ever so close of maybe winning here on Greece? Nico now a bit further behind, but Molle touches again on the outside there, but he's still not out on that one just yet. He's still in close proximity towards the other players. Nico will have an awkward landing, clipping a little bit. Oh, my internet is lagging a little bit as well, but it will be so close, and it will be Nico with a mistake after a very, very awkward entry into the last part. He could not survive it, and Molle lives another day.
Yeah, second half of the staircase, and Nico just lacking a little bit of speed there, and as a result, clipped with the rear axle of the car on the edge of the block, which pretty much put him to a stop, and that is going to be costing a shot at the top 14 for the Frenchman, who's still going to be taking a little bit of an advantage of that, a bit of solace in that, in the fact that it's still a much better finish than what he ended up with on USA, and the fact that he did not qualify on Brazil. And Gwen, one of the guys from AG Global, we saw the ghost of Gwen stand at the start line, and that's always a little bit of a shame whenever that happens. And this is something that he has not been, he's not stranger to. Remember 2024 during the World Tour? He had to battle plenty of technical issues as well to try and actually make his way into the Trackmania World Tour playoffs throughout the season. So this is very unfortunate for the man from AG Global for having that happen. Yeah, it does happen
also
pretty
often. Bings.
Yeah, and Binks as well. But so far, Binks, teammate from Gwen, is currently sitting pretty. He's right in the right sort of group, and even though he knows that his teammate is out, he can somewhat ease off the throttle and try to make his way into the next round with ease. And Epos can also afford to lift off the throttle as well after what he's been putting through in the last few rounds. We're not going to go for the helicopter cam. We're going to be following along with Epos as he climbs a little bit back up the pecking order, going through the identity. Are there going to be any big crashes? And that's Pack! That's Pack! No way! No way! Can Pack actually make it through? Yes, okay. I was gonna be a bit wary there. I thought he was forced to kind of respawn there, but no, actually Gwen also decided to retire a little bit later on. And that's 14th place for the man from AG Global. It's the lucky, the planets are aligning for Pack. I can feel it. I think you can feel it as well, Kai.
Yeah, like Dude, if Pack doesn't win today, I don't know, man. Like, you know, he was like, if Gwen was just in this round, Pack would have been out. But it's, of course, a lot of what ifs, you know, the butterfly effect, yada, 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 you know, all of that stuff. And it is Soldier with an unusual mistake right at the start, touching there. And this, of course, is good for Scrappy in that regard, because Scrappy can jump at some point a bit closer to Soldier here, who is, of course, still on 23rd position and will get some good points. But Scrappy, you know, is on 13th position. So it's still very close between them, and Soldier will not get a big result to overtake Scrappy in that regard. But there's still, of course, the identity left, but I think players are cautious. They are aware that there's a player 2+ second behind them. You can see Granadi also going extra safe in that sector here. By the looks of it, and just playing the format correctly. You know, it's knockout. You don't need to drive a world record. You don't get a life back if you win a round, whereas in other competitions that this was the case in the big Trackmania Cup, for example, and also in other events that took place. And Granati with a beautiful identity, even overtaking Mime, Bren, and Letzter. And Soldier, after that mistake, is out on P13 and cannot catch up to Scrappy here significantly.
Yeah, that was a very early mistake right off the rip, right out of the gates for Solja into the crest before checkpoint number 1. That's where he lost the bulk of his time, and then it just got compounded as the checkpoints and the corners were following one after another, and that's a P13 exit for who was essentially the early flag bearer for Belgium in the ENC standings. Of course, there are still 5 rounds to go in the Elite Cup for 2026 and plenty of opportunities to catch up to Scrappy and retake the mantle and lead the charge for Belgium. As we go on to round number 30, 12 players remaining right now, 11 will remain at the end of this round, and we're going to go again for the helicopter camera after the ice slide, and it's a pretty even Stevens exit, I guess, with Letzter just at the tail end, 1/10.5 behind, but it looks still very hotly contested right now, and anything can happen. The positions are going to continue to shuffle from checkpoint to checkpoint and corner to corner, I suspect, as we go along with Moda, who had a bit of a wide exit from the plastic. Pack actually releasing a little bit more going into the NASCAR turn. Maybe he has a bit of a different setup that requires him to lift a little bit more, thus giving a bit of a glimmer of hope of Moda to actually catch back up to the top 11 that is right ahead of him as we go towards the identity. Great outside dirt line for Moda as we go over the crest onto the dirt and then into the little nosedive section. Mime actually streaks away from the rest of the field into the identity. It takes the lead by quite the authoritarian margin indeed. Elcon will be sliding back down towards the tail end and will get knocked out.
Wow.
Mime clocks in a 0.428 in the meantime, 3/10 clear of Otak. That is quite the finish there.
What an ending here from all the players. Elcon eliminated on P12. Muda, not with the strongest of rounds, was a bit further behind up until the last sector, but then he just fought back and also capitalized a little bit from that slight mistake there from Elcon. But what a great showing here from Mollis, still in P11 guaranteed and also getting the best start in this round. You love to see that. Molle right now just replicating the performance from Tona from last week, and he still finds himself in there. Letzter not with a good start. Molle on third, actually second position after the ice slide. That is a beautiful showing from the young Swedish player. And what is happening in this round? Letzter right now on last position, just tied with Mime. Only 1,000 tearing them apart in the previous checkpoints. And Mime, he needs to push it in to make it into the top 10. Good approach here from Mime, going so risky there, almost clipping, having overspeed from that exit, and finds himself back into that battle with Pack. Pack, currently the player who is facing elimination, is roughly 0.1 behind the rest of the field. But let's go into the free camera here again. Let's see who crumbles under pressure, who's not getting the best of jumps here in the ending sector. Pack gets it really good, overtaking a lot of players. Mime with a good landing. Otak clipping. Otak is out. He is eliminated. He didn't get the transition. And both Molle and Letzter also failed it. And this will be bitter, even more dramatic for Otak, because if he just survived that clip and could have made that transition, well, he would have most likely been in.
And the top 10 gets whisked away for the man from Samalo, the newest member of Team Liquid, who will still be a bit happier about that result than the P40 that he garnered on Brazil after that full stopping into the penultimate checkpoint gate that we saw earlier on in the show. As we go on to round number 32, 10 players at the start, 9 will remain at the end of this race. Molle with a great start, the Swedish driver on an absolute flyer here this weekend as he continues to rub shoulders with the greats of the game, Granati, Pack, Carl Jr., Epos, Bren, just to name a few. As we go through the ice slide, Moda, who was a little bit behind on the way into that particular ice slide, does recover a little bit of the gap and sends Letzter back down to last place provisionally. As we go onto the staircase, Mime getting very close to clipping again with the right rear, but manages to make it stick, and on the gray stuff goes towards the front of the field, currently in second just behind Granati. Pack now fighting for survival against Letzter, who was bobbling a little bit through that leap of faith double left-hander, and that is going to be giving a little bit of a reprieve for the Englishman from Team Vitality as he finds himself less than a 10 10th ahead of Leicester as we go towards the helicopter camera for the identity, ringing the bell once more for the 32nd time here in the knockout. Who will get through clean? Who will have heartbreak? Pack looking to be a little bit slow. Granati as well, having some early troubles. Mola, this time maybe on the verge of getting eliminated. He resists the attacks of Leicester. Mime nearly throws it all away with that sideways entry into the finish. He resists the attack of Leicester by 97 milliseconds, but I think I'm slightly running out of breath because that was so close to disaster for the man from Navi.
It was such a long round here by the looks of it, and Leicester was already starting this round with a 0.2 deficit and just didn't get a good start, as Moller always gets the start beautifully. Also here in this round, he finds himself in the lead, and also Pack really struggled with that first sector again. He finds himself behind. He was in that position last time around as well, alongside Leicester, who got eliminated, but then now a beautiful ice exit from Pack. Epos almost crashing there, was able to control the icy tires, but Pack moves on a bit closer to the others, actually now in the midst of the pack, but doesn't have a lot of speed. Now Muda again a bit further behind, but of course, very important to survive the next couple of rounds, because the point jump from 8th to 7th is 100 points. So now it is all to play for, but we have to say bye to one player here in this round. Brent having to slightly readjust before the entry into the dirt sector, and it's between him and Muda. Let's take a look who's gonna take it home here. Muda with a beautiful nosedive, having a lot of speed, but let's go into the free camera and to the follow all camera again. Who's gonna fail in this part? It's looking good for all the players. Brent is really pushing it. It will be so close. Brent, Muda or Moller. It will be Brent who's out. Moller with an outstanding ending as well, and the Twisted Mind player is out on P9. What a round!
How does Mola do this? I wonder what he ate for breakfast and for lunch, because I'll have double what he's having if that gives me performances like this in the game. My goodness, the Swede, the absolute sensation here in Greece, makes it through to the top 8 and has a chance to double up the amount of points that he is virtually guaranteed. He has 100 points in the bank if he gets knocked out now, but if he goes one more round, he is going to be doubling up his points, because he would come away with 200 points at the very least. Currently is at the tail end of the leading group, still separated by just a 10th of a second. This is very good racing here from Mola. Pack currently at the tail end of the racing group again. Yeah, just seems to have a little bit of a sluggish start in the early parts of the round, but then reels everyone back in. Right now, though, it looks as though the gap is starting to open up there for the man from Vitality. Still looking for a very good result. Already securing himself his best result in the season to date, with top 8 virtually secured for the man from Vitality, as we go on to checkpoint 11 after that right-hander tech turn. Now onto the dirt. Carl Jr. leading the field ahead of Granati, Binks, Muda, Mime, Epos, Mola, and Pack in that order. Going to the helicopter shot. The identity once more for the 34th time. Going on to the landing. Who gets it a little bit slower? Seems as though Mime is a bit in the wars and might be in trouble. Same for Epos as well. And Epos will get knocked out with that clip just a few corners from the end. Binks, who also had a slowdown in the final part of the identity, makes it through, and the leading UK player is out in 8th.
Epos out on 8th position. That is huge news for Pack as well, because he can run really deep. However, his start is not looking good. He's always 0.2 behind and then catches up at the end of the map. So Pack is really struggling with that. Let's take a look here. Top 7, Molle with a stellar performance. 200 points already guaranteed, and he will just slingshot himself up into the ENC ranking with that. But let's see how deep he can run. Is the pressure still on there for him? Or is he like, yeah, goal acquired, or is he like, I want more? Right now, just seeing that start, he wants more. He finds himself in that battle for the top placement. Only a couple of thousands between the players. Moda not with a good start, but very aggressive here on the inside. Jumps back to the leads here alongside Carl Jr. Also Granati not with a good transition there, finding himself in that battle with Molle, who releases very early. Look at the speed from Molle, though, in this sector, is able to just get this one through, and this is all coming down to the ending again. Carl is 0.2 ahead, but one slight mistake can also set him up for the spectator booth. And let's take a look. Molle now behind. How much is he willing to push here in this round? Very good line, but maybe a bit of an oversteer movement there, but overtaking Granati temporarily, but clipping. He is clipping Molle clips, and I think he will be eliminated. But what a great performance from Molle here on P number 7, just getting 200 points across. And wow, he can be so proud of that one.
Yeah, I think a standing ovation is in order for the performance put on by Molle. His best Elite Cup finish to date, 7th position. We saw flashes of brilliance and flashes of promise in France very early on, but he managed to pull through and deliver the goods for himself and also for his nation. Going on to round number 36, 6 players at the start, 5 will remain at the end.
Yeah, let's see who is gonna survive in this round. The rounds are just never ending. It's like a marathon that players have to endure, and they already did it 35 times. We still have 5 more rounds to go here on this particular map, and Granadi now gets an exceptional start here, finds himself in the lead. Muda now on 6th position. Pack seems to fix the start by the looks of it. Maybe wasn't that comfortable with it, and now is not falling majorly behind, but he's not quite safe just yet because he's still battling with Mime, Binks, and Muda. Muda really pushing it here. No one with a mistake in this round. Mime falling behind, but who's gonna get eliminated here, Geek?
This is going to be a bit of a tough one to call. Still 2.5 tenths of a second between first and last at the moment. Granadi holding on to the lead of the field. He was leading by about 1.5 by the midway point of the map, going towards the identity. And Muda with a huge slowdown before even the identity rang the bell. And the championship leader will get knocked out in 6th position, considering that everybody makes it through clean, and Carl almost got overtaken by Pack there, who gets a pretty good identity in the end. 113.473 for Granadi, who comes away as the round winner. Bings is also in there, and Mime far outshines the rest of his season and more than makes up for it with a virtually guaranteed top 5 spot, and looking to continue to increase the points. He's got 1, 2, 3, 400 points currently in the bank. Can he try to go for 500, Kai?
Top 38 currently in the standings, sitting at 142 points. So virtually just tripling the points that he has set beforehand. So what a great showing from Mime here, but doesn't get a good start in this round, but coming back with a nice drift. Almost got a nose slide there by the looks of it, but was able to get this one through. Was a bit hesitant there, but he's a bit further behind here. But Pack, oh, that was so close of hitting the wall, but he got it through. His car was locked by the looks of it, but he was able to open up the steering just in time to make it through. But of course, that bleeded a bit of time, and now Mime is coming back. Binks, Carl Jr., and Granadi looking so strong on this map. Hardly any mistakes have happened from them so far, and it is all still to play for. Carl in the lead, but only by 0.1 of a second here. Mime with a good approach here as well, but he's still finding himself a bit further behind. Let's go into the follow-all camera here again and see who survives the ending the best. Mime with a beautiful nosedive coming back to P number 3. Even look how far he jumped. Pack now facing elimination. Is it enough to overtake Mime? Mime with the best landing,
Carl!
but Carl Jr. is clipping the... Oh no, he's clipping the winner of last week. Is now out due to a very, very slight mistake on P number 5.
Just the tiniest of clips from the front left on the penultimate drop down in that identity was enough to send Carl Jr. packing home with 400 points for his effort. We're down to the top 4 now. Binks, Granadi, we've been accustomed to seeing these making deep ones, but Pack and Mime, who have had such a rocky season so far, they are absolutely beaming with the amount of points that they'll be to come back with. Currently 500 points virtually guaranteed. If you make it to the top 3, that's 600 guaranteed. Top 2, 700, but of course everybody got their eyes on the prize, the 1,000 points that come with the win here on Greece, as we follow along with Granadi, who was a bit slow after the ice slide and finds himself down in 4th place. The wheelman from Berlin International Gaming sees the gap getting increased quite a bit as we go onto the plastic and look at the top 3. 48 milliseconds now between 1st through 3rd. Currently, Binks leads the charge ahead of Pack and Mime. Granadi still trying to catch his way back up, going onto the dirt of checkpoints 11 through 12. Now it's Pack and Binks going side by side. Mime in 3rd, getting reeled in by Granadi as we go onto the identity
Pack
for the 38th time. And Pack gets a slowdown. Mime as well gets a slowdown. Who goes off the worst for wear? Can Pack actually have an inkling of a hope to remain through into the top 3? The answer is a no. He will get out in top 4. Still 500 points in the bank, and his challenge for the top 8 in the ENC standing, top 8 EWC and top 16 ENC standings has come alive.
Pack jumping too close there to the pole on the left side, but he was still able to somewhat survive the round, and that just shows how deeply the players have learned this map, that they know just how to save in every possible scenario. But Pack will not join the top 3. It will be Binks, Granadi, and Mime facing it out here, and let's see who will actually make it into that battle for the 1,000 points. Will it be Mime, who had not the best season of things, and then Granadi was also struggling a lot with the knockout format, or is Binks? I think he can even move up into the leads here if he goes to win this one.
Yeah, I feel like Binks has a solid shot of moving into the overall point standings. We could very well see a lead change indeed, Kai, as you're pointing out, but he still has to contend with 2 very fast players that are hot on his heels, and the hottest on his heels right now is Granadi, who goes for the move in the NASCAR part, and Mime briefly graces the wall through that NASCAR double left-hander, as you saw here on the stream, and so the man from Navi will be knocked out in 3rd position. We're now going to go along with Granadi, who gives us a good overview of what Binks does in the identity, actually, on this penultimate round here on Greece, going on to the first jump, and Granadi goes for a little bit more of a conservative approach, reduces his speed on the way into the first platform, and they navigate through that section nice and clean. And for Mime, still comes away with P3. At last, he gets the result that he needed to kick off his Elite Cup season in 2026 after numerous setbacks, event after event. And now, Kai, it's another France versus Germany matchup, Binks versus Granadi. And I've been at the tail end of these rounds so many times, I feel like it's time for me to return the favor. Your turn, Kai, for the next 70 seconds.
Let's go into the last rounds here. Round number 14, Binks versus Granadi. Who's gonna win it here? 1,000 points on the line, and Binks gets a very good start, nails the apex accordingly, but Granadi not with the worst speed outcome here as well. It's 500ths of a second. Granadi really trying to push it, goes wide as well to have as much speed on the ice as possible. Very good line in there as well, but Binks, such a nice inside line, will just slingshot himself into the lead, and Granadi is 0.15 away, but never say never. Granadi was so good at this ending section, but right now Binks is really pushing it. He really wants it. Look how much he's risking. He just gains time towards Granadi, but Binks slowing down there just a slight bit by the looks of it, and losing a bit of time, but we only talk about a couple of thousands. But Granadi is certainly not out here in this round, as he really tries to come back to that one. But Binks with an exceptional round so far, but this will all come down to the last part. One more time, round 40 out of 40. Binks with a good landing, but Granadi coming closer. Will it be enough for Granadi to overtake Binks here in the ending? Granadi coming so much closer, but Binks is not clipping. But it's not enough, and Binks will win it here, even though it was quite close in the ending. But Binks survived the whole round and had an insane start as well. The catch-up from Granadi in the end did not work out, and Binks wins and will move into the first position in the ranking.
And just like that, with a 113.507, Binks becomes the 4th different winner here in the Elite Cup so far in 2026, and AG Global becomes the 3rd new team to experience victory outright in Trackmania for the very first time. Absolute scintillating round, and what a round from Binks, just absolutely sending it almost every corner. Sure, the pace was not quite there for the world record, which is a .050, which is pretty stout. Still, 113.5. We were roughly in the 0.4s, 0.5s. It's still a credible
and Granadi caught up in the end.
Yeah, and with a great catch-up from Granadi, indeed, as you were pointing out. And I think that should give us a little bit of an inkling into the rankings, which should be updated by now. And yes, indeed, you can see that with the Elite Cup standings. And actually, we start with the EWC. Binks, your new championship leader at the end of the 5-race winter season with 24-10. He's just less than 50 points ahead of Mota. 46 points, if my calculations are correct, ahead of Mota on 23-64. Carl Jr. down to 3rd. Granadi moves up to 4th, and for 50 points retakes the mantle of highest placed German player for Germany. Wasau Brandon Nyko 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, and then also Pack with a massive jump, of course, to P13, 730 points for him, but still a couple of points, 122 points behind Epos, who of course also got 8th position, so he catches up some points there, but still a massive result. But I think the biggest winner here of this particular step is Mime, up to 12th position, also 6th in the ENC ranking. That is absolutely beautiful to see. And also, of course, Molle. We have talked about him as well, but look where he is. He's on 22nd. He's 9th in the ENC ranking.
And I think this is going to be, if there is a Driver of the Day award, I feel like Molle deserves it, because that is such an impressive performance to put down. Moving up to 9th in the ENC standings, 22nd in the overall standings, as you said, Kai. And just going for a quick read through the rankings here at ENC after the first half of the Elite Cup is done. You can see Binks standing at the top of the standings for France, then Australia, Canada, Germany, the UK, Poland making some appreciable gains, moving up to 6th, Belgium in 7th, then Elcon for Czechia in 8th, 9th place for Sweden, then Hungary, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Russia, Croatia, then Colombia, and last but not least, Chemko, the Turkish player, makes it through to the top 16 with 142 points. Now, some of you may be wanting to know, how does that actually pan out for the points race? I wonder if the graphic will be ready for us to show on there. It's going to be it's not ready for it. Yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait until the next time we come back on air, which will be in a few weeks' time, for the remainder of the Elite Cup. And yeah, I mean, the first 5 races, Kai, they have been just so stout to watch. There have been some unfortunate moments for some players, some heartbreak there, but 5 down, sure, 5 to go still, and plenty of opportunities to catch back up.
Yeah, and I mean, you think there will be a break now from now onwards, but there's just massive events coming up now. We have, of course, the big LAN happening, right, just next week at the big LAN race. Then there's DreamHack Birmingham in 2 weeks as well, which uses this exact map pack as well. Then we can take a little bit of a breather, and then the spring campaign releases on April 15th. So already mark that in the calendar, because the 5 black maps from that campaign will be played in the 5 remaining steps of the Elite Cup that kicks off, I think, May the 2nd, if my memory serves me
exactly.
correct.
In fact, let's show you the schedule one last time before we actually go off air. So here's the schedule that we have at the moment. You can see we have the first 5 events of the season that just concluded today with the Elite Cup Greece. And here is the schedule for the spring season. Starting off May the 2nd at 5 p.m. Central European Time, or Central European Summer Time, I should say, because we're already on the time zone change. So it will still be Cup of the Day -2, Trackmania Standard Time. This is probably the only reliable time zone that we have right now.
It's so good. It's such a nice, reliable time zone.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to put that into my term paper.
For me, I wanted to say, like I said, Trackmania Standard Time in the Trackmania games. I think it's canon now. I think this is canon in the Trackmania and the real universe. May the 2nd and May the 9th, both on Saturdays. Then there will be one day of a bump. They will be on May 17th on a Sunday instead of a Saturday. Then there will be back on the Saturday with the 23rd and the 30th of May to conclude the Elite Cup season and determine who will be the next 8 players to be qualified through to the Esports World Cup. And of course, in between that, there is of course the DreamHack Birmingham qualifier, and there's a lot of other events happening in Trackmania, be it esports or otherwise. If you want to keep up with some of the esports news that we have here, Trackmania Esports on Twitter or all the socials, make sure to follow the links at the bottom of the screen right there, and of course at Trackmania on all other socials as well for everything related to the game. And with that, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're wrapping up the first 5 races. It's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride, especially today. It has been a marathon, and I mean, no pun intended, Greece marathon. Haha, you probably get it, right? But it was a blast, really. I really enjoyed every second of it, even though my internet was not really holding up all that good in the first 2 races. But today and also last week was stellar, my internet. Please hold for my streams as well and for everything else. But today was just perfect. It was so nice. What a performance from Binks as well, and from Molle. We had so many nice storylines, also the one from Pack beforehand as well, and then he eventually ended up in a top 4 position.
Yeah,
you love to see this kind of thing, Geek.
Yeah, indeed, that and the podium finish from Mime as well. Both players were in dire need of getting something to turn their season around and actually kick off their Elite Cup season, really, and they were able to get that, and they delivered in spades. We thought the stars aligned was maybe a sign of the gods that Pack was destined to finish in 4th and come away with 500 points at that point in time. And just to put a period on the various technical issues that you or we may have encountered, it's a homebrew production, guys. I mean, there's only so much we can do. Sometimes stuff breaks, sometimes it's the human that breaks, sometimes it is the technique that breaks, as exemplified by a couple of the freeze frames. I feel like I'm gonna become the Markiplier of Trackmania when it comes to freeze frames. This is insane. But having had to deal with poor internet connections, I've been there myself, and I can only be compassionate with you, Kai. But with that, before we wrap up, if you want to have any last words, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, also for joining in the cast. It was a lot of fun for the first half of the season. I hope we're gonna see ourselves again in the second half of the season as well, but only time will tell. But I've had a blast, especially with you, Tom. It has been an awesome job, our meetings, preparing all of that, just taking turns, just preparing all of that. It's always a pleasure working alongside with you and streaming to you at home. It has been amazing. So thank you very, very much for that professional environment. It was a blast, and I cannot wait to be back on the main channel.
Well, the pleasure is mine, Kai, and it's been a real labor of love working on these broadcasts over the course of the last 5 weeks, and there's a couple of people I want to shout out. Of course, the man on the right of your screen for being such an awesome co-caster and an awesome colleague, someone that I always enjoy working with. Also, a couple of shout-outs out in order for those that work hard behind the scenes. Of course, Kem, the one and only, how can we forget him? And also the man who's responsible for the graphical package that you see and some of the assets that you've seen as well throughout this entire broadcast, Leviathan. He is the absolute GOAT. Like, I don't know what ton I'm making, but he's an absolute gem of a human being, and also, yeah, just an absolute GOAT for making that happen. And of course, a huge thank you to Ubisoft Nadeo for the trust put into us to actually bring you the action live for these Elite Cup rounds, and most importantly, Kai's already said it, but thanks to you for watching, for being with us, for sticking with us for some of the more perilous moments that we've had. But it's been such a blast, and we really, really hope to see you again. This is going to be it from us here on the official Trackmania channel for the winter season of the Elite Cup 2026. Much love, be kind, stay safe, and who knows, see you very soon. Godspeed, people!